Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Friday. Woo, you made it to Friday. I know, it's not very exciting anymore. Friday, November 14th, 2025. Time for another show. Time for recognizing Friday as Gateway to Chaos in Trump world. Remember that? I mean, if we have any new listeners dropping by today, and maybe, why not? Or new since I said this last, weekends. Trump really has ruined weekends, hasn't he? I mean, if you are something of a news junkie, and you probably are if you're listening to the show, or about to be, and if you've got any attachment to just catching up on the news, whether it's, just doom scrolling on social media or whatever, you'll notice that the doom scrolling has been happening a lot more lately. Well, one, I guess, because we just invented social media and then invented doom scrolling after that. But also, one of the things you may have noticed the difference between the Trump era, or God help us if you are too young to know the difference between regular politics and the Trump era. I don't know. But the Trump era, and even the difference between Trump and Biden, where weekends were a time when Biden would perhaps retreat to his home in Delaware early on in the presidency, go biking, go out for ice cream. Things like that. The news, such as it was about the presidency, was lovely, calm things that you and the president might even have in common. Maybe you went for a bike ride. Maybe you went out for ice cream. Whereas now, the plane rides to and from the pervert sex dungeon in Florida or the golf club in New Jersey or wherever he's going are marked by the press frantically having to cover some, perhaps the crazy new announcement of a new invasion of a country that we've had no problem with, or murdering people all over the Caribbean Sea, or maybe I'll have 1,000% tariffs and we're going to lower the drug prices by 1,500%. There's always something happening that's insane that he'll tell you on what's supposed to be a lovely plane ride to or from a vacation, a mini vacation, essentially. And he just... it's one of the ongoing symptoms of the Trump era is that he raises blood pressure across America on the weekends. And it's very tiring. And it's difficult to deal with. So I just thought I would spill that. And I don't know. So then I recommend, I guess, having a variety of morning beverages around. By the way, we should probably at this point think about going back to colonial era morning beverages and just having everybody basically be drinking spirits and beer in the morning, because honestly, how else are you going to get through this day? I don't know how long tea is going to cut it, is what I'm saying, but tea is a very good product, and it was around at the beginning in the colonial era too, except we had to, I guess we had to break onto ships and dump it into the harbor for a little while first, and then fight wars about it. Why, by the way? Tariffs. I just thought I'd throw that one in there too. So much going on today. The chaos is setting itself up. I don't know what Trump is doing for the weekend. I should check in on this again. Last night, I just took a glance at my usual Trump schedule search, which usually brings me to the top hit is Roll Call, the newspaper, the Hill Rag, essentially. Keeps track of this stuff and posts these items, the basic announced presidential public schedule. And yesterday there was nothing at all for Saturday, not Saturday and then a blank. The schedule just went Friday, Sunday. So I wasn't sure what was going on. I thought, I don't know, maybe he's flying to China again and there's just a day lost in travel. But I think it was just a glitch. However, the Saturday schedule is up and it just says the president has no public events scheduled. Though there is an out-of-town travel pool call time. So let me see what does Friday tell us anything? He's in town now. He's allegedly got some White House pool press call time now, which will be crazy announcements, but set play crazy announcements. Then later, 4:30 p.m. he gets set to fly down to the sex dungeon. So that's a good 2 hours of travel for him to come out into the press cabin and tell people, we're invading Mars. I don't know if you know that. We're doing it because of the very high tariffs on their rare Mars minerals. Who knows what could be happening. Then he's in Perv-a-Lago for the weekend, and so that's all there is. So there'll be 2 travel opportunities. I guess he's unscheduled. The first thing I thought when I saw that the Saturday wasn't even listed was he was retreating to one of the golf clubs that I guess have the mini hospitals set up in them so he can have private, who knows what, chemotherapy. I don't know what he's getting. Whatever is bruising his hands constantly. That might be on tap for this weekend. I don't know if they have one of those set up at Perv-a-Lago or not. Lately he's been doing that at the D.C. area. It's not Washington. A golf club. And that's out in Northern Virginia. Right in the heart of the Northern Virginia blue streak voting zone, Loudoun County. And I mean that, blue streak. Anyway, but nothing listed. So, yeah, it may be medical treatment. It may just be private golfing and loafing, which, you're entitled to do as president. That's not an issue, except, of course, that he's golfing every weekend. I did read recently, somebody was saying in reaction to one of the Trump people on TV saying, people criticize Donald Trump for playing too much golf, but everybody knows the all-time record holder for playing golf is Barack Obama. And it's very difficult to believe because it comes down to a matter of timing. Obama, over 8 years, I guess technically, has still played more golf or has gone to the golf course more times, which is really even still hard to believe, than Donald Trump, except the frequency with which Donald Trump is there and having only served one term and then this part of a year is still very close, I guess, to catching up to and passing Obama's record. And I guess it'll happen soon enough. Anyway, I just found that interesting. I guess what is interesting is that he's unscheduled, and what he's not doing is going to a different golf course. And I don't know why would he do that? Because there's another golf tournament going on that he might otherwise have been interested in, except that I guess there'll be nothing for him to watch over the weekend. His granddaughter is playing in a LPGA tour event. I assume still as an amateur. I'm not sure it's listed here as her LPGA debut, but that could still be as an amateur. Or if you're in golf, they love to have the weird affect of saying amateur or something like that. It's very weird. I don't know where that comes from. But I couldn't remember her name, and I had to go and look it up, and I was like, Kia Sorrento Trump? No, I've reversed it. It's Kai, Kai, not Kia, the car company. I don't think they would have picked that car company necessarily to name her after, but who knows? Maybe Hyundai Trump is playing in the LPGA, the Annika tournament, which I guess is Annika Sorensen's tournament because I know the name of a LPGA golfer. Anyway. She's in the tournament, but it looks like there might not be an opportunity to go and watch her play on Saturday because that's only for the people who played well, essentially. People who know anything about the professional golf tours, these tournaments run 4 days. You play Thursday and Friday. Everybody who makes the tournament. And I mean, you got to be really good to make it into the tournament. And she is. I guess. I don't know. I don't know whether they gave her a pass because she's a Trump and they thought it would raise the profile of the event. Who knows? I'll read about it, I guess. Do I want to look at it? Well, look at this. ESPN will tell me, all right, what's up with the tournament? How'd she do? And if I read the New York Times about it, the headline is, Kai Trump is not the solution to the LPGA's problem. I don't know what the LPGA's problem is, but I guess that might be discussing whether or not they let her in the back door to raise the profile of an LPGA event, which is still possible. Anyway, she shot an 83, I guess, in her first round, which is, was it 13 over? Which is, by the way, for an amateur golfer, a fantastic round. That's great. As professionals or as amateurs competing with professionalism goes, No. What it won't do is get you into the weekend, right? You play 2 rounds, and if you do, very well, at some point at the end of the first 2 rounds, at least you get the 2 rounds in for free. So you play Thursday, Friday, if you qualify for the tournament or they let you in. And then I don't know how the exercise works, but at some point they draw a line somewhere and they say everybody who's scored under this continues on and plays in the weekend. That makes the cut, as they say it in golf parlance. And you go on and you play for the balance of the tournament, Saturday and Sunday. And then, as you know, they give the award to a trump, regardless of what happens. Anyway, also, if somebody else scores better, they might win some money. Then the people who played, not well enough, they can stay around as spectators. They go home. They're out. They miss the cut. And it looks like shooting an 83 in the opening round makes it extremely difficult to think about making the cut, which means Donald Trump may have kept his schedule for all we know. This would be what a human would do. Keep your schedule on Saturday open in case your granddaughter makes the cut in an LPGA tour event and you go watch her. I don't know what kind of logistics would be involved in that. The Secret Service may have, kicked her ball into the woods to make sure that she didn't make the cut so that they wouldn't have to guard him at this other event. I don't know. Anyway, I thought it was interesting. And, no knock on Kai Trump. Not this. There's other knocks you can do if you're interested in knocking on Kai Trump, driving a Cybertruck, for instance. But, seems to be a much better golfer than her grandfather, so that's great. Good for her. And now I'm curious what the LPGA's problem is, and I've made this into a New York Times style story. Oh, I can't tell you because it's about sports, so it's in The Athletic, which I don't pay the New York Times extra to see. But now I'm just sort of curious. The people behind Takes Deep Breath. The Annika, driven by Gamebridge at Pelican. I don't even know what's going on anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, please call an ambulance. I'm in the golden hour. I believe I'm having a stroke. That's what it says. Hugh Kellenberger is the name of the reporter for the Times' The Athletic. The people behind, and it says that, Takes Deep Breath. That's like stage direction. The Annika, driven by Gamebridge at Pelican. I guess, is that the official name of it? It's the Annika tournament, driven by Gamebridge, which I assume Gamebridge is the sponsor, at Pelican, which is maybe the golf course that they're playing at. So I don't know. But again, I need to take a baby aspirin or something. Anyway, the people behind Takes Deep Breath, the Annika, driven by Gamebridge at Pelican, got a taste of that viral life, I'm still lost, a year ago with Caitlin Clark's Pro-Am appearance and have doubled down on it. All right, now Caitlin Clark, she's the basketball player, right? So that they bring her in for the Pro-Am, I guess, to raise their profile. And then this year, it's Kai Trump they're bringing in. Clark was back on Wednesday, the most famous women's basketball player in the world, playing a very relatable version of golf, this time surrounded by Indiana Fever, not Femur. That's a great name for a basketball team. They do have some of the longest, I assume, femurs out there. Indiana Fever teammates Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull. The Fever play in Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and the direct-to-consumer digital annuity platform. Oh my God, I see why he's taking such deep breaths. That who Gamebridge is? Gamebridge is an outfit that considers themselves, in their own words, a direct-to-consumer digital annuity platform, which I guess means it's sort of like you, instead of going to Charles Schwab and setting up a retirement account for yourself, you would do it at Gainbridge on their website. Direct-to-consumer digital annuity. All right. Anyway, I guess they also sponsor the Indiana Fever, so they did a cross-promotion thing. This is really not the news I thought we were going to be discussing, but I am intrigued by this stuff. All right. So the Fever play at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and the direct-to-consumer digital annuity platform is why those three, along with former USWNT women's national team. That's the U.S. women's national team would probably be our soccer team. Brianna Scurry and NASCAR driver Carson Hocevar. Yeah, I hope that's the pronunciation. All showed up in the Tampa Bay area this week. And so it really would have been an easy hop for Trump to get from Perv-a-Lago to Tampa, relatively speaking, to see his granddaughter play. Pro-Ams are a great place for such stunts. There's an unseriousness baked into the entire thing as wealthy individuals or representatives of well-heeled corporations pay for the chance to rub shoulders with the pro golfers a day or two ahead of the actual tournament. Now, that's true. That's not part of the normal tournament. Usually a Wednesday activity. Invite the entire WNBA and try to work out a collective bargaining agreement at the halfway house, and you'll hear no argument from this corner. Holy cow. All right. But it's what happened the next day that bears more serious attention and worry that the three forces putting on this LPGA tournament may have lost the plot here. Kai Trump played in the Annika on Thursday, one of 108 women playing in the final full-field LPGA event of the season. The number 461 junior golfer ranking, okay. And, that doesn't make her top in the world or anything, but being ranked at all, fantastic, wonderful achievement. Can't take away from that. I'm ranked the 5 billionth junior golfer, not least of which because I'm, just on age alone. But the number 461 junior golfer in America, right? Still was given a coveted sponsor exemption because of her last name and massive social media following, with no belief by those who handed her a golden ticket that she could compete against the actual best women's golfers in the world. Yeah, okay. So, that's the knock, and it's not really a knock on Kai. And by the way, being given a sponsor's exemption, which basically is a backdoor into the tournament. Did you qualify? Are you good enough to do this? No, not really. If they had handed most people a sponsor's exemption and said, go play golf in front of a crowd and next to the pros, you would shoot a 10 million. So congratulations on an 83, quite honestly. All right, so that's it. We've uncovered the big secret here is they found that they could, if they dropped an exemption on a Trump, there would be attention on it. And guess what I've just done? I've given attention to it. Do you know anything about the Annika? Now you do. Ever hear about GameBridge? I hadn't. Now I have. Now you have too. Do you know what a direct-to-consumer digital annuity platform is? You do now. So mission accomplished there on that front. I really didn't mean to do that, but I was just a little bit intrigued by what was going on. I really meant to tell you all the other news that was going on here today. And there's a lot. Let's see. My early morning distraction has been the latest from ProPublica, which always turns out great in-depth content. And this time they have as well. And the news is that Kristi Noem, who is single-handedly keeping Spirit Halloween in business year-round, is doing another cosplay event in South Dakota. At least that's kind of where she's supposedly from, so I guess that's a good spot for her. In front of Mount Rushmore, which of course has its own controversial history, and which Trump plans to carve with his own face at some point as well. And this is a story, as ProPublica sees it, the more important story, and they're right, is this is Kristi Noem using her official position to help herself and her friends steal hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer funds and keep it for themselves. Why? How? We'll explain the mechanism. That's the story that ProPublica is explaining. I am more intrigued by the 1,000 words, or the equivalent to the 1,000 words afforded to us by the photography accompanying this. And I guess that means a chance to I was going to credit the photographer for this very intriguing picture here, but it's a corporate photographer for the people who are stealing the money. So I guess I won't bother at the moment. But what's happening here is they are staging a photo shoot for a video here promoting DHS, which doesn't need any promotion, and it doesn't really matter what you think of DHS, and a commercial isn't going to change it, but that's the story. ProPublica writes, firm tied to Kristi Noem secretly got money from $220 million DHS ad contracts. The company is run by the husband of Noem's chief DHS spokesperson, actually somebody that we've called out as the most terrible person in the world, or one of the most terrible people in the administration, certainly, is Tricia McLaughlin, just like one of the most ridiculous, insane liars out there for the administration. But so the company that's filming the ads and is getting paid God knows how many millions of dollars is owned by Noem's spokesperson's husband, and the firm has personal and business ties to Noem herself and her other aides. DHS has invoked the, quote, emergency at the border to skirt competitive bidding rules for the taxpayer-funded campaign. And I mean, one, they're using it for why are we making a $220 million ad campaign? Well, to tell people about the serious crisis at the border. But imagine this. The crisis at the border is so serious that we can't even put this out to competitive bids because Mexicans will flood into the country and win the bid. You know, what's the excuse for this? Not only that, but it has to be non-competitive bidding. It's go straight to the firm I choose because of the emergency at the border, and we're going to film it at the other border, by the way, like as far as you can get from the southern border, the northern border. It makes no sense, but you didn't think it was going to do that, did you? All right, Justin Elliott, Joshua Kaplan, and Alex Majerski probably wish I would get to the story already because it's already 9:23, and we're going to have to take a break for the first our first commercial spot, I guess, which you won't hear on the live version of the show, but you will in the podcast. Welcome, podcast listeners. Here's the story. On October 2nd, the second day of the government shutdown, right? Nobody else gets paid. Nothing's working, but this is what they're working on. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem arrived at Mount Rushmore to shoot a television ad. Why not? And by the way, you probably thought that last word was going to be, the last two words, dog, right? Kristi Noem arrived at Mount Rushmore to shoot a blank. Match game 25. I got 6 people guessing dog. Sitting on horseback in chaps and a cowboy hat, which, by the way, they don't have to say they're assless chaps, which is something that everybody thinks is really hilarious. But all chaps are, in fact, assless, which is, like I would have thought, by the way, you would want some leather to protect your pants on horseback. But I don't really know what the science of chaps is supposed to be. But anyway, right, so here she is sitting on horseback in chaps and a cowboy hat. Noem addressed the camera with a stern message for immigrants. Break our laws and we'll dress you up like me. That's not the message. Break our laws and we'll punish you. Same thing. Noem has hailed the more than $200 million taxpayer-funded ad campaign as a crucial tool to stem illegal immigration, right? If you're watching television and on the other side of the border and thinking, I got to get over there. Look at these chaps. I can't wait to get to the United States. Hopefully the message will discourage you. Her agency invoked the national emergency at the border as it awarded contracts for the campaign, bypassing the normal competitive bidding process designed to prevent waste and corruption. So, of course, that program wasn't going to help us. By the way, instead of $200 million on an ad campaign to prevent illegal immigration, had they split that up and just put it in envelopes, and they stand at the border and say, we'll give you this money if you don't come in here, that'd probably be more effective. The Department of Homeland Security has kept at least one beneficiary of the 9 times there are figures in this, keep the 9-figure ad deal a secret. Records and interviews show a Republican consulting firm with long-standing personal and business ties to Noem and her senior aides at DHS. The company running the Mount Rushmore shoot, called the Strategy Group, that is a good name, huh? Does not appear on public documents about the contract. The main recipient listed on the contracts is a mysterious Delaware company. For people who hate Joe Biden, they do a lot of business in Delaware, which was created days before the deal was finalized. Well, they're an established firm. No firm has closer ties to Noam's political operation than the Strategy Group. It played a central role in her 2022 South Dakota gubernatorial campaign. Corey Lewandowski, her live-in top advisor at DHS, has worked extensively with the firm. I can't believe it. And the company's CEO is married to Noam's chief spokesperson at DHS, Tricia McLaughlin. No one ever mentions who Noam is married to, by the way, in all this. Is she still married? I mean, I know it's ridiculous her running around with Corey Lewandowski, but I mean, I think she's married, right? I'm just now, let's see. Let's look at Wikipedia and see what they have to say just before our break here. I'm going to say personal life thing somewhere, early life. Scrolling down to the bottom where they usually stow this stuff because of how important marriage is and stuff. That's just a Wikipedia preference. Oh, God. Now, so there's a whole bunch of stories about how ridiculous she is and the things she's supposedly doing as, what do you call it? DHS secretary. Let's see. She married Brian Noam, Bryon, in 1992. Doesn't say anything about them being divorced. So there you go. I mean, I guess he's just hanging out elsewhere in South Dakota. I mean, was he on? It'd be interesting to find out. Did he turn out for the shoot? Just like Grandpa Trump isn't turning out for his granddaughter's round at the Annika. Although, yeah, I mean, I know she won't make the cut, but he could have taken off early and gone down there earlier on Friday to see her play. It's interesting that he didn't, but the Secret Service probably didn't want him to. All right, anyway, we'll tell you more about the machinations by which her cronies have schemed to steal millions of dollars from you after this.
Hi, I'm Scott Anderson, the guy that writes the daily summary for this show, Kagro in the Morning. Thank you to everyone that supports this show. Many of you send donations through PayPal, Patreon, Square Cash, Radio Public, and so on. Some of you write your own essays and send them in, or read articles with your own commentary. We appreciate it. Now, some of you are listening to this and thinking, I'd like to help, but isn't there something I could do that wouldn't require money or effort? Why, yes, there is. You can just like us. On Daily Coast, they call it the recommend button. YouTube has a thumbs up. There are hearts and likes and love buttons. Tap our love button. Tap our love button every day. Share our shows and summaries on Facebook and Twitter, YouTube and iTunes, Stitcher and Amazon. Most of these places allow you to write a review, so a sentence or two would be great. Recommend us to social media, or tell your friends to listen to the show. You aren't just helping us, you're helping them find their new favorite thing to listen to. You could change the world. So thank you in advance from me and everybody else in the world.
All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Let me continue on with ProPublica's expose on the grift that Kristi Noem is chaps deep in, I guess, at this stage of the game, and cosplaying once again, this time as a cowgirl. And why is the real question. And the answer is she loves dressing up and loves plastic surgery. That's true. And hair extensions. But in addition, she loves to steal money. And more than anything else, she loves to help others around her who give her some of that money steal even more money. It's so fun. So as we said, here comes the strategy group. These are the guys who won the contract to make some of these, or maybe all of these, $200 million worth of ads, which again, I guess, are they even in Spanish? I don't know. They're supposedly designed to spread the message that, hey, don't come to the United States, because if you do, we'll arrest you. And while that part seems to be true, I don't know how many people are not coming because of the cowboy ads. And also, if you make an ad that says, this essentially says, this country is beautiful, and I'm rich and I'm riding on a horse. And if you come here, you too could ride horseback in beautiful country, but you can't, because you can't come here, because we're going to arrest you because you're poor and you speak Spanish and you probably don't even understand what I'm saying now. You see why a $200 million ad campaign like this might not be what I would call a good strategy. So where did the contract go? The strategy group, of course. which really should have been your first hint, right? We need a great group of creatives who really are going to think outside the box for this. Who should we get to do this strategy? We need a group that will come in here and help with the strategy. The strategy group, that's the kind of out-of-the-box thinking. All right. No firm has closer ties to Noam's political operation than the strategy group, right? They they played a central role, anyway, in her 2022 South Dakota gubernatorial campaign. Corey Lewandowski, who's her live-in pal, has worked extensively with them, so they have his address and they know where to mail checks if he wants them. The strategy group's ad work is the first known example of money flowing from Noam's agency to businesses controlled by her allies and friends. And again, that's where the previous paragraph, I skipped at the end. That's the first naming of Tricia McLaughlin, the terrible, terrible lying person who works as her chief spokesperson, who I mentioned before. Government contracting experts said the depth of the ties between DHS leadership and the strategy group suggested major potential violations of ethics rules, but F them. It's corrupt is the word, said Charles Tiefer. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. It's Tiefer, a leading authority on federal contract law and former member of the Commission on Wartime Contracting in Iraq and Afghanistan. Oh boy, you want to learn about corruption? That's a good spot. He said that the strategy group's role should... everything moved around because an ad changed. The strategy group's role should prompt investigations by both the DHS Inspector General and the House Oversight Committee. But clearly by now, the DHS Inspector General, like most inspectors general, knows it should prompt an investigation. But if it does prompt an investigation, you are fired. But it should. Hiding your friends as subcontractors is like playing... What? Mr. Tiefer. Hiding your friends as subcontractors is like playing hide the salami with the taxpayer. Tiefer had it. In a sense, I guess. Let me just... Charles, give me a call. Do you know what it means? Do you know what that means? Playing hide the salami? It's not really about hiding anything. So, I don't know what to say. Except, well, I mean, I maybe, is this are you alluding to Corey Lewandowski's involvement in all of this? Is that what's happening here? I mean, that would be pretty clever, Mr. Tiefer. But in another sense, I guess it is like playing hide the salami with the taxpayer in the sense that, you're effed because your money is disappearing into Kristi Noem's pockets. Holy mackerel. I wasn't expecting that. Federal regulations forbid conflicts of interest and hiding salamis in contracting and require that the process be conducted with complete impartiality and with preferential treatment for none. It's worthy of an investigation to ferret out how these decisions were made and whether they were made legally and without bias, said Scott Amey, A-M-E-Y, a contracting expert and general counsel at the Watchdog Project on Government Oversight, with no pornographic references whatsoever. The revelations come as the amount of money at Noam's disposal has skyrocketed. Government's closed, everybody else is fired, but she's got lots more money. The so-called Big Beautiful Bill, don't even call it that, granted the only bill passed by the 219th Congress, granted DHS more than $150 billion, and Noam has given herself an unusual degree of control over how that money is spent. This summer, she began requiring that she personally approve any payment over $100,000, and I guess she's just not approving any that don't go to her. Remember also she bought herself 2 Gulfstream jets to fly around the country to shoot these commercials with. And by the way, in the last week or so, there was also word that she approved contracts for buying more aircraft for DHS to use for deportation flights. And I guess she thought she got a great price on like 10 jets. And then it was discovered after they bought them, like asterisk, engines not included. Engines sold separately. So, that accounts for the great price. I'm sure they can go out and buy engines and everything, but like now DHS is going to have to contract out. Can you put these engines on this plane, please? All right. Well, anyway, we didn't get to that story. I think that might even be an Instapaper somewhere, but you probably heard about that one by now. Asked about the strategy group's work for DHS, McLaughlin, the agency liar, said in an interview, "We don't have visibility into why they were chosen." Which is amazing because the only person who would have that visibility is actually McLaughlin, and she decided to lie about it because if she told the truth about it, why was this group selected? Because I'm making money off of it. But I can't tell you that, so I'm going to tell you we don't have visibility into it. What does that even mean? I understand where she's trying to go with that, but all right. So that's just a big lie. I don't know who they're a subcontractor with, but I don't work with them because I have a conflict of interest and I fully recused myself, she said. My marriage is one thing and work is another. I don't combine them. Her husband, Strategy Group CEO Ben Yoho, didn't respond to questions. My question to him would have been, is Yoho your real name? I think I once ran into a brand of potato chips called Yoho potato chips. And are you Ben Yoho of the potato chip Yohos? I don't know if it was named after the family that ran the place or not. I can't remember that. Anyway, he didn't respond to questions, so it wouldn't matter. Neither did Tricia McLaughlin really respond to the questions, even though she's quoted here. Here, by the way, embedded in the piece is an Instagram photo from Tricia's feed with, I guess she's sitting next to Ben. They're on the plane somewhere. Ben, I don't know how old Ben is. He's got a weird look about him. I can't tell whether he's young or old. So I don't know what to make of this. Anyway, there you go. And Tricia McLaughlin is everything you would think that cosplay hair extension Kristi Noem's spokesperson would look like. Like her. Essentially blonde, but like her. In a written statement, DHS said, DHS has no involvement with the selection of subcontractors. I'm sorry. If it was like no involvement in the selection of contractors, well, that would obviously be a blatant lie. This may also be a blatant lie, but I guess less blatant because I can't tell. They added that the strategy group does not have a direct contract with the agency, saying DHS cannot and does not determine, control, or weigh in on who contractors hire. Of course they do. You're fired if you don't hire these subcontractors, but that's whispered behind the scenes. Contracting experts said the agencies can and do sometimes require that subcontractors be approved by officials. It's not clear how much the strategy group has been paid, but it's probably all of it. This is not the first time that the strategy group has gotten public money through a Noem contract as governor of South Dakota in 2023. If you were wondering, okay, when was the last time or when was the first time that strategy group got money? The question can be answered this way. What was Kristi Noem's previous public job? That is where she funneled this money out of. And the answer is she was governor of South Dakota. And as governor of South Dakota in 2023, her administration set off a scandal by hiring the Ohio, for some reason, based company to a different ad campaign, paying it $8.5 million in state funds. While the state said the contract was done by the book was How to Cheat by Kristi Noem. So a former Noem administration official told ProPublica that Noem quietly intervened to ensure the strategy group got the deal. ProPublica granted some people anonymity to discuss the deals because of their sensitivity. I wonder if you could get people on record by saying, I'll grant you anonymity, and then they think you just messed up the word. But no, I'm granting you anonymity isn't a thing, so all the rules don't apply. The firm also paid up to $25,000, that is to say, strategy group paid money to who? $25,000 to one of Noem's closest advisors in South Dakota, previously unreported records show. The advisor, 28-year-old Madison Sheehan, now serves as DHS as the second in command of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Sheehan didn't respond to questions about why she was paid. Well, the answer is because I wanted money. And that was it. The DHS ad that the company filmed at Mount Rushmore has aired during Fox and Friends on recent days. That the favorite programming of all the people considering crossing the border, of course. So that tells you everything you need to know also, by the way, right? Millions of dollars in ad campaigns to discourage illegal immigration. Where do they show it? Fox News. That's not where the illegal immigrants are watching television, but this is a way of showing the people who watch Fox News something serious about the border, I guess, which really tells you a lot about what you need to know about this administration. But I was going to say, well, let me finish the paragraph and then we can go back to it. But executives from the strategy group traveled to the shoot and hired subcontractors to fill out the film crew, according to records and a person involved in the campaign. The ad's aesthetic sits somewhere between a political campaign ad and a Jeep commercial, as Noam tells would-be immigrants on Fox to come here the right way. All right, one more paragraph, I guess. From the cowboys who tamed the West, who are very largely Mexican, many and people of color, by the way, but never mind all that. From the cowboys who tamed the West to the titans who built our cities, Noam says, as images of Trump Tower in Chicago and Trump raising his fist after the assassination attempt last year flash on the screen. What? America has always rewarded vision and grit. Noam continues, you cross the border illegally, we'll find you. And of course, you cross the border illegally, you're not watching Fox. But there you have it. And this was going to lead me to the reason I was so intrigued by this story was, one, the cosplay, and two, the photography that this piece offers, which is really interesting. If you see the piece circulating on social media, you'll likely see one of the glamour shots of Noam taken from like stills of the video. But what's really interesting is if you go to the piece itself on ProPublica's site, the top photo, great choice by the editors. Basically, it stands for the proposition that if you look at any Trump administration policy or action and how they frame it for you, like literally for the cameras, you take 5 paces back and take a wider view of what's going on, you'll see that you're basically on a Hollywood-style set. Here she is, ranging the country on horseback, and chaps, for God's sake, and a cowboy hat, and there's Mount Rushmore. But take 5 paces back, and you see, she's standing in a spot that's been prepared for this thing. There's a boom microphone over here and a camera on a big expensive boom over there and rigging and lights and everything. And the whole thing is fake. And it's just true of just about, it's a great metaphor for the Trump administration itself, Trump world in general, truly a picture that's worth 1,000 words. And a lot of people have agreed so far this morning on Blue Sky. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. There's a bit more to the story. Let's talk about the theft of the money. The ad is the latest in a campaign that Noam debuted in February, just a few weeks after she took charge of DHS. So you probably have, like I said, I thought I heard this story about her doing these ads before. The story then was about the ads and the dumbness of doing them. This is now who stole the money. Any delay in providing these critical communications to the public will increase the spread of misinformation, especially misinformation by smugglers, the agency wrote, explaining why it was skipping the competitive bidding process normally required for government contracts. I don't think that explains it, but there are words there. The initial ads featured Noam thanking Trump for securing the border and also getting shot, I guess. So thanks for securing the border. Now I need to spend $200 million talking about how we also secured the border like more after that, even though I thanked him already for doing it. But that's an interesting idea. Like, why a non-competitive bidding process? Well, any delay in providing these critical communications to the public will increase the spread of misinformation. Right? If we don't pretend Kristi Noem is riding in the range thousands of miles away from the border right now, then I guess the immigrants will hire their own PR agency to produce ads that show that they're already in the United States or something. I mean, if we don't put out our own misinformation, someone else will put out misinformation instead. And I mean, faster or alongside. I mean, even if you produce these things tomorrow, how does that prevent misinformation from spreading? Other people will simply shoot their own commercials, I guess. They won't because it's such a dumb idea, but all right. So the point is, it's paper thin. The excuse for it is paper thin. The contracts total $220 million so far, leading the DHS ad budget to triple in the most recent fiscal year, as we're tightening our belts. According to Bloomberg, the lion's share of ad contracts is typically used to buy TV airtime or spots on social media. Advertising firms make money by taking an often hefty commission. Federal records show the contracts have gone to two firms. One is a Republican ad company in Louisiana called People Who Think, that's at least different, which has been awarded $77 million. But the majority of the money, $143 million, has gone to a mysterious LLC. Love mystery. A mysterious LLC, Limited Liability Corporation, as you know, in Delaware. I mean, okay. And you know why? Looser incorporation rules, easy to set up a corporation and hide the ownership and set it up in a day or whatever, and low taxes on corporations. Ads being shot in South Dakota. The firm that's shooting them is from Ohio. They're being done on behalf of the Washington, D.C. based Department of Homeland Security, but something, don't tax me, it's in Delaware. The company was created just days before it was awarded the deal. Little is known about the Delaware company, which is called Safe America Media, and lists its address as someplace in Delaware? No, the Virginia home of a veteran Republican operative, Michael McElwain. It's McElwain. I'm calling it McElwain. I don't know the guy, but McElwain has long had his own advertising company, separate from the Delaware one. But there's little evidence that firm could handle a 9-figure federal contract on its own. It reported just 5 employees when it received COVID-19 relief money a few years ago. He is adept at funneling money out of the government. How, where, and to whom Safe America Media doled out the $143 million is unknown. Any subcontractors hired to do work on the DHS ads are not disclosed in federal contracting databases. The office funding the ad contracts is listed as the DHS Office of Public Affairs, which is run by Tricia McLaughlin. Contract records show McLaughlin married Yoho, the strategy group CEO, earlier this year. I have to go and see, is there an entry anywhere for the Yoho potato chips, like in Wikipedia by any chance? Just sort of curious about it. I guess they've gone out of business, but Yoho potato chips, the AI tells me, a nostalgic brand that was once produced in the Chicago area but has since gone out of business. Just sort of curious. There's a Facebook group about it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just sort of curious whether it was named after the family or anything like that, but not really sure. Anyway, I'm not going to go to the Facebook group because they won't let me out of that place. I want to get back to the story where Kristi Noem was stealing money. Anyway, asked why the agencies chose Safe America Media, DHS said the results speak for themselves, though we have not seen them so far. I skipped over something earlier. In its statement, DHS said the agency does its contracting by the book, the How to Cheat book, and the process is run by career officials. Anyway, that's supposed to mean something, but now, of course, there are people that they fired. The career officials were fired, and they were replaced by political appointees in career official jobs, but they're now career officials as a result, so there you go. The process is run by the new people that we brought in once we fired the old career officials, who are actually fair people. It's very sad that ProPublica would seek to defame these public servants, DHS has added, which, is something that DHS or members of the Trump administration never do. They never defame public servants. Asked about why the agency chose Safe America Media, DHS said, the results speak for themselves, so I don't have to. The most secure border in American history and over 2 million illegal aliens exiting the United States. McElwain and people who think didn't respond to those questions, but what kind of answer is that? Why'd you choose this particular ad company? Because we have the most secure border in American history. But that would actually argue against hiring anybody at all. Why even bother doing this ad campaign? You're under arrest, essentially, is the answer. Yoho was still in college when he first served as campaign manager for a U.S. congressman. Now, at 38 years old, that's our answer for how old he is. And I guess at 38 is about that point where I don't know whether you're young or old. I can't tell. He's a national player now in the cutthroat industry of political advertising. Federal election records show tens of millions in payments to his firm during the 2024 election cycle, coming from dozens of Republican congressional candidates, and Noam has proved a particularly lucrative client. Not surprising, given that Yoho's wife is her top aide. Well, her second top aide. The first top aide, I guess, is the aide on top of her, Corey Lewandowski. So just keep that in mind. Lewandowski, mentioned right away, brought Yoho into Noam's inner circle back in South Dakota, according to two people familiar with the matter, putting the young consultant in charge of the ad side of her 2022 gubernatorial election campaign. And Noam had more than $5 million advertising budget for that race, records show. After she won in a landslide, Yoho, who has called Noam a friend, came to South Dakota to attend her inauguration ceremony. Not that unusual. He sat off to the side of the stage next to Lewandowski. Lewandowski didn't respond to a request for comment. By then, Yoho's next big project with Noam was already in the works. Late 2022, Noam was quietly preparing to launch another sprawling ad campaign, only this time the money would come from state coffers. The stated goal was to encourage workers to move to South Dakota. Unless you're from Mexico, I guess. But them too. Actually, that ad campaign. The upcoming contract opportunity wasn't public yet, but Yoho was already involved in planning the campaign, according to records first reported by Sioux Falls Live. Then, on January 12th, 2023, Yoho's company registered to do business in South Dakota under the name Go West Media. The next day, the contract opportunity went live. 7 companies submitted proposals for the project. Then the pressure from above set in, according to a former Noam administration official involved in the process. The former official said a top Noam aide told them the governor would be angry if Yoho's company didn't win the contract. He was very direct. She wants to do it, they said. Contemporaneous, I don't know why I said it that way, contemporaneous, text messages reviewed by ProPublica corroborate that senior Noam administration officials pushed for Yoho to get the contract. Eventually, he did. In its statement, DHS denied that Noam influenced the process. Why not? Noam starred in Yoho's ads herself, dressing up again. I had no idea that the cosplay tradition with her was so long. Seriously, ProPublica is just telling it like it is here. Noam starred in the ads herself, dressing up as a dentist, all right, a plumber, sure, a state trooper as well. She touted her state's growing economy. Exactly how much Yoho and the strategy group made off the $8.5 million deal is unclear. Some of the money was used to purchase spots on Fox News, of course, including one during a Republican presidential debate. Some of the money appears to have gone back to South Dakota, though, into the bank account of another of Noam's top advisors. So it's not like it went back to the state. So again, the ad campaign is come move to South Dakota and work here. Because we need people. I am governor, the only dentist, the whole state police force, and the only plumber in the state. You need to get here and help me out. By the way, how do you cosplay as a plumber? The answer is you put on a ball cap backwards. There you go. I'm looking at it right here. I think a plumber would probably tie their hair back a little bit, but she hasn't done that because she paid a lot for those extensions. You got to see them. Sheehan, now the second in command at ICE, was paid up to $25,000 by Go West in 2023 for, quote, consulting. You should turn that baseball hat around. 25 grand, please. According to a financial disclosure document Sheehan later filed, at the same time, Sheehan was serving as both the operations director for Noam as governor and the political director for Noam's campaign work, according to a copy of her 2023 resume obtained by ProPublica. Her responsibilities included coordinating daily logistics and operations for Noam and her team. That's your resume language for you. She also managed the relationship with high-level donors to American Resolve. That's Noam's network of outside political groups. As his firm received millions from the South Dakota state government, Yoho separately continued to work for Noam in other capacities. He worked under Lewandowski, everyone's under Lewandowski, on the publicity campaign for Noam's 2024 memoir, according to a person familiar with the matter. The book became famous for including an anecdote about Noam shooting her dog. Yeah, it's a good strategy. The strategy group also received a stream of payments for social media consulting and media production work over the last few years of Noam's American Resolve PAC. Federal election records show the PAC made its last payment to Yoho's company this February, a couple weeks after Noam took her post as the head of DHS. So we did it. We actually read through the entirety of the article. ProPublica loves to get in depth about these things. I had fears that I wouldn't make it before the next break, but now I have. Now I have fears about what will I tell you in the next minute before we actually exit from here. How about more Kai Trump news? No. All right. We can tease a couple of other things that we will address, and I'm definitely pondering going back to that very long look at Cuckoo Bird, Laura Loomer, which we read about half of last time around. Oh, there's my sound effect. I was wondering where that went to. By the way, I should call this out. I wonder if I can find this thing. I saw somebody made a great, offhand joke about Laura Loomer, that the reason they call her Laura Loomer is the way she loves to sneak into your bedroom and watch you sleep. And sometimes you'll open your eyes and catch her looming, getting it right over you. All right. Well, lots more we could be covering, but I love this in-depth stuff. There are a couple of definitely stories on tap, though, that are going to compete. I'm going to struggle for the next minute to decide which direction to go. Why don't you come back and find out? I've got 2 segments to do it, too. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. I was going to make my selection about which direction to head in next. And did I do it? Did I take care of business? Not really. But let me add this to the mix. I feel this is important. This is good to know going into the weekend. As you know, from earlier in the week, the Office of the President issued what I guess it purports to be pardons for those involved in the forged Electoral College vote certificates that the campaign tried to substitute for the real thing in 2021 so that he would be falsely elected president in 2020, or the record would reflect a false election for him. But anyway, you know all about that. But the fact that he pardoned everybody involved in it raised a lot of issues, including that he had included on the list some additional, what was I going to say? Oh, so some people who are indicted in addition to having once been in jeopardy of facing federal charges, we'll say, that also face state charges in Georgia. And just a reminder that supposedly, up until now anyway, no one has ever understood the presidential pardon power to extend to state charges. They may try to change that. And in fact, Trump did try to change it by, I thought that he was going to do this earlier on. He was going to just start declaring the right to pardon state charges. He hasn't gone that far, but I thought he would begin with Tina Peters, the county clerk in Colorado, who was breaking into the secure storage facilities where they kept the voting machines in an attempt to hack into them, give other people access to their source code so they could, quote unquote, prove that the quote unquote election was quote unquote stolen from quote unquote Donald Trump. And she went to prison, and he so far hasn't been able to spring her from prison, but he did direct the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to try to find some way to punish Colorado if they don't use the governor's power to pardon her from the state charges. It's really quite amazing. Anyway, there's news on that front. Also, Scott Anderson lets me know that, wow. I forgot how loud that is. Scott has let me know that Yoho is an Asian snack company. It's currently an Asian snack company, but I have inside knowledge on this. Yoho with a hyphen is in fact a nostalgic brand of potato chips from the Chicago area. I think it was an old-timey company that went out of business that somebody got nostalgic for and then tried to relaunch. And then, it didn't really go anywhere because do we really need more potato chip companies? I guess. I don't know. But so, yes, if you search around, you'll find that there is, in fact, a Asian company still in business under that name. I don't think they have anything to do with Ben Yoho. And, not really sure exactly. But anyway, I don't know whether Ben had anything to do with the Yoho potato chip company originally, the one in Chicago, or anything like that. I have no idea. It's just a funny name at this point. Anyway, yes. So there we are on the Yoho front. But yeah, you can look around if you're finding the same, mysterious confusion. I wouldn't let it worry you. I think we'll straighten it out. We'll straighten this all off the air. How about that? Right. So what was the story I was going to tell you? I can't even remember anymore. Yes. Right. So the pardons. There's a development on that front elsewhere, and it is coming out of Nevada. And I don't know whether it was motivated by the purported pardons or just the timing is right. But the Hill has this news for us thanks to Ella Lee. Nevada's top court revives state's quote unquote fake electors. They put that in quotes. They're pretty fake. Fake electors case in Clark County. We definitely covered this story at some point. You'll recall that state authorities, the state attorney general, named herein, if I go ahead and read the thing, filed these charges. And remember, he filed them in Clark County, like the biggest, most populous county in the state, Las Vegas's county, for reasons. And the claim was that I guess the defense attorneys were saying we should have this thing dismissed. This thing should have been filed in whatever the hell county Carson City is in, where the state capital is, because that is where the Electoral College would have met. And of course, as a result, it turns out to be the place where the fake electors met as well. But it didn't, as it turns out, it hasn't succeeded. Ella has more organized thoughts about it. This was interesting to me. Nevada's top court on Thursday evening revived the state's criminal case against the 6, quote, fake electors. They're fake. That's a forgery. I understand why they do that too. Oh, well, we're just alternative. Right, I know. But you didn't win Nevada, and no one thought you did. Anyway, it revived the state's criminal case against the 6 fake electors who falsely claimed President Trump won the state's 2020 presidential election. A fight over venue had tied the prosecution up for more than a year. Nevada Attorney General Aaron Ford, a Democrat, filed his original case in Democratic-leaning Clark County, which includes Las Vegas, but a state judge dismissed it last year after finding that the charges should have been brought in Carson City, the state capital, where the sham Electoral College votes were cast. All right, I mean, he had a point there. But guess what? The full Nevada Supreme Court, and excluding one justice who recused themselves, I don't know whether that's because they're non-binary or what, but I mean, I think we've all just gotten used to that construction, which is fine. It's traditionally incorrect. Recused, I don't know. It's interesting. Like if you decide my pronouns are they, them, okay, then they recused themselves. We're getting used to that now. Anyway, the full court agreed with Ford that the defendants should be charged in Clark County because they allegedly mailed their false electoral vote certificates to a judge federal judge, sitting on the federal court there. That's good. That's a good call. Absolutely. I don't really know why they didn't send it. Is there no federal judge sitting in Carson City? But I guess you're supposed to send it to the chief of the federal district court. And I guess is there probably only one for Nevada? And if the chief sits in Clark County, then boom, you got an act that you can build your case on. That's really, I don't know why that wasn't brought up earlier. I guess it was, and they just didn't cover all the pleadings at the time. So, good call. We conclude, says the court, that venue was properly laid in Clark County. And lots of people are properly laid in Clark County, as it turns out. But what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas, Corey. Because the offenses charged were not complete upon mailing, but rather necessarily involved the receipt of the certificates at the location to which they were mailed. Justice Lydia Stiglitz wrote for the court. A little convoluted, but you get the idea. Because that's a good question, too. Well, they were mailed to the judge who sits there, so that we should be able to bring the case in Clark County. And you could see the defense attorney saying, well, big deal. They mailed them. They mailed them from Carson City. Yeah, but they had to be received in Clark County. Okay. That actually happens a lot. They work on that. All right. The pro-Trump electors who were charged are Michael McDonald, the chairman of the Nevada Republican Party. No relation to the fast food chain, I don't think. Jesse Law, Jim DeGraffenreid, Durward James Hindle III. Do not confuse him with Durward James Hindle II or any of the other ones. Sean Meehan and Eileen Rice. Trump pardoned all 6 of them on Sunday as part of a sweeping clemency for more than 70 lawyers, aides, and fake electors who sought to provide an alternate slate of electoral votes in his favor after his 2020 election loss and engaged in other conduct focused on exposing purported voter fraud, except they didn't do any. Not only did they not expose it, they didn't find it because it didn't happen. However, presidential pardons only apply to federal offenses. Ford told The Hill on Monday that the pardons would have no bearing on our decision-making or prosecution under Nevada state law. The 6 defendants had pleaded not guilty to felony charges of offering a false instrument, that is to say forgery, offering a false instrument for filing and uttering a forged document, which carry penalties of up to 4 or 5 years in prison. Okay. I guess one of them carries a penalty of up to 4 years, and the other one carries a penalty of up to 5 years, but it's not quite right to say, well, they carry penalties of up to 5 years in prison. Well, one of them only carries a penalty of up to 4. Very awkward. Ford said in a statement Thursday that the court's decision affirmed what his office has maintained all along. The 2020 fake electors cannot evade accountability in Nevada for their unlawful actions. Ford said, as Attorney General, it is my duty to hold those who sought to undermine the results of our state's free and fair elections responsible. After Judge Mary Kay Holthus ruled that Ford chose the wrong venue and dismissed the charges, his office refiled one of the counts in Carson City as a protective measure to ensure it wasn't lost to the statute of limitations, as the first count would have been should he have lost at the state's highest court. Ford said he intends to resume the case in Clark County now that he has prevailed in his appeal. The fake elector scheme, as you know, sought to push former Vice President Mike Pence, where'd that guy go, to certify Trump-supporting electors in critical battleground states instead of the true Electoral College votes cast for former President Biden. Biden won Nevada by more than 33,000 votes in 2020. The charges were ultimately filed, or rather state charges were ultimately filed in Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nevada. Efforts to certify an alternate slate of electors occurred in New Mexico and Pennsylvania as well, but charges were never brought. However, several of the prosecutions are on life support. Georgia's Prosecuting Attorneys Council PAC. What? Oh, I see. It's not a PAC that they own. That is to say, Georgia's Prosecuting Attorneys Council. That is PAC. for short. Got it. Must choose a new prosecutor to lead the case by Friday. Did you know that? That's today. Or allow it to potentially be dismissed after Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis's office was disqualified over her romance with the top prosecutor in the case. Nobody's disqualifying Corey Lewandowski or Kristi Noem over their alleged romance, but what can I tell you? The attorneys general in Arizona and Michigan are also weighing whether to appeal rulings that could mark the end of their prosecutions. Oh, I would encourage you to do so, though you'll probably find that your family is subject to threats. I guess that's a new bit I didn't know about, and now we got to keep an eye out to find out whether they're going to get off their asses in Georgia after yet more statewide election victories. I hope that they can come up with somebody to prosecute the case. I'll do it. I don't know. Find an attorney. God. Anyway, what can I tell you? That's news. And I'm glad I brought it to you. There's more. The other direction, or one of the other directions I was considering going, lots about Epstein yesterday. And more to come, I'm sure. But it also opens the door to more Republican pervert stories. Because honestly, the sun rises, there's going to be a Republican pervert story. Honestly, sun doesn't rise, probably going to be another Republican pervert story. Maybe a story connecting Republican perversion to the fact that the sun didn't rise. An additional level of scandal. Who's left to pin disgusting scandals on? Matt Gaetz, of course. He's back in the news. Giant forehead guy, just like the other giant forehead lady who was in the news the other day, Kim Davis, not to be confused with other giant forehead lady sometimes in the news, Rebecca Mercer, who's just been kind of quiet of late, but I guess she's just enjoying her billions. In Matt Gaetz scandal, not the guy from Media Matters, stop it. Circumstances left teen vulnerable to exploitation. And I guess ultimately they're very careful in wording all this. New York Times, there's a backstory to this which could easily be construed as meaning that Matt Gaetz knew what her circumstances were and took advantage of her because of those circumstances. But it's not entirely clear that that is the case. However, it really shouldn't matter because, yuck, what are you doing? A 17-year-old with a homeless parent wanted money for braces and ended up having sex for money with powerful men, presumably then to get that money for braces. She wants the public to have a fuller understanding of how she was victimized. And good. I'm glad that she does want that. I'm sad that she has to want that, but it's interesting to say the least. Is Matt Gaetz clear on all of this? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. What really matters here is a 17-year-old was hired to have sex with Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz probably did the hiring. He'll say, and this is the truth, she told me she was 18. She did represent herself as 18 in order to do this. It's a sad commentary on pretty much everything about American life. Michael Schmidt is reporting it for the New York Times. You know that guy. And Michael Schmidt, Lafayette College. Woo! I mean, what can I tell you? I find that fun. She was 17. She was just 17. You know what I mean. And she was a high school junior in Florida. She was working at McDonald's, and she was living in and out of a homeless shelter, hoping to save up to buy braces to fix her teeth. That's what braces do. She falsely advertised herself in 2017 as 18 years old on a website that matches men looking for companionship with young women looking to make money. It's, the oldest profession, as they say. But it's not that, because it's just about companionship. And hey, if sex happens, what can you do? It's not part of the contract, so it's not the oldest profession. It's the second oldest third oldest profession. The second oldest profession being the people who say, if you just change the wording, it's not the oldest profession. What followed would set off a chain of events that would have a dramatic impact on her life and help upend the political career of one of the men she would encounter, Representative Matt Gaetz, the Florida Republican. Mr. Gaetz was investigated by the Justice Department for child sex trafficking, but never charged. Following the election last year, he was President Trump's first choice to serve as Attorney General. God damn, if you forgot that. Unbelievable. He subsequently resigned from Congress, then withdrew from consideration for AG under a storm of scrutiny. Okay, so again, the basic storyline here is Matt Gaetz was kind of into very young women who he could say, hey, if you want braces, have sex with me. Then you'll be able to partially afford them. So it's also a little bit about, I'm a Republican member of Congress, and one of the reasons that I am opposed to universal health care is it makes it more difficult for me to get dates. If they can just go to the dentist, then they don't need me. So I don't like dinging my dating pool by allowing people to take care of their health needs with a program of paying in through taxation all along. That can't happen. A bipartisan House Ethics Committee investigation later determined there was substantial evidence that he had sex with the 17-year-old, and the report included testimony from the girl about how she was paid by Mr. Gaetz for the sex. For all of the public furor over Mr. Gaetz, who always asserted that he broke no laws, even as the House Ethics Committee found that he violated Florida's statutory rape laws, that's a law, little attention has been given to the story of the girl, unfortunately, how she came to be exploited and how she has coped with what happened to her in the ensuing political scandal. Last month, in response to a request from the McClatchy newspaper chain, a federal judge in Florida unsealed court documents from a related civil case that shed some light on her background. The documents included a description of the girl that said at the time that she met Mr. Gaetz, she was, quote, a then homeless 17-year-old high schooler. In response to that disclosure, the New York Times reached out to the girl's lawyer, Laura B. Wolf, who agreed to confirm some basic biographical information about her client, providing details for the first time of how the girl's circumstances led her to the encounters with Mr. Gaetz. Encounters. Mrs. Wolf said her client believed the public should have a fuller understanding of how she had been victimized. The vulnerable circumstances most crime victims face are rarely known to the public, Ms. Wolf said. Although my client's circumstances were revealed outside of her control, I hope it helps for the public to see a fuller and more human picture of her than the press has reported on up to date. I think it's helping me. Ms. Wolf added, power imbalances can be age, but they can also be financial. My client had little economic security, which allowed for financial leverage over her. Experts in sex trafficking said that the matter involving the girl demonstrated how there's a spectrum of ways girls and women are exploited. In some cases, the girls or women are physically trapped and unable to escape men who are taking advantage of them. In other cases, the girls or women find themselves at the whims of more powerful men after turning to sex trafficking out of economic need. And why can't we address that in this country? And part of the reason Republicans, I think, don't want to do it is because it means there would be fewer people for them to exploit for their sexual needs. And I understand that people think, well, that's a long way to go around to that. Do you really think that that's what's driving it? Aren't they just opposed to it on economic grounds? I don't know. I do remind you, we fought a whole ass civil war in this country for 4 years over one side's claim that it was their right to keep sex concubines in their backyard and own them as property. That's what it comes down to, and that's what they were doing, and it was not a small part of what they were doing. It was a huge part of what they were doing. And yeah, there was also exploited physical labor, and don't minimize that. More people were victimized by that, I assume, than sex trafficking. But the sex trafficking was a huge, huge, huge part of it. That had its own code names and the fancy girl trade. And you would go and buy, people weren't buying at the fancy girl auctions because of their cotton picking abilities. It was quite the opposite. This was a real thing. And this was a real motivation. And it's embarrassing and weird to talk about sex in this country, so we decided not to do it. But it was a huge reason for what was going on. And a huge reason that people were willing to go to war and have other people get killed in their place, by the way, who had nothing to do with the slave trade, for the most part. Not that they were opposed to it, don't think that they were great people as a result necessarily, but they didn't own slaves. They keep pointing out most of the Southern soldiers didn't own slaves. Well, that actually makes it worse. So stop using that as an excuse. Anyway, back into the present situation. The girl would emerge as the chief witness against Mr. Gaetz in the Justice Department's sex trafficking investigation. The investigation ended with the department declining to bring charges. Everybody remembers that. Among the reasons prosecutors did not move forward was their concern about whether she would be seen as a credible witness after being exposed to cross-examination by defense lawyers, according to people familiar with the investigation. Everybody understood that, I think, going in, and it's quite true. Meanwhile, by the way, no witnesses and no evidence whatsoever in the case against James Comey or Letitia James, but prosecutors at the DOJ going forward with that one for some strange reason. They don't seem to be able to get enough of that one. And by the way, so no prosecutions of Trump in the end, all sorts of hesitation on the part of Merrick Garland and others at the DOJ for, maybe good reason, etc. But by the way, the only people who got prosecuted by the Merrick Garland DOJ in the main, not really, totally, but high profile cases, they had plenty of time to prosecute, very rightly, Bob Menendez, Democrat at the time, but Republicans were going to be cautious about that one. It's true, they did operate that way. Anyway, among the reasons prosecutors didn't move forward, the cross-examination problem. Not just that they might lose credibility for the witness, but subjecting this person to yet more trauma. I think that's valid. In response to questions about the girl, Mr. Gaetz said in a text message on Thursday, "I never had sex with this person." Sure, whatever, pal. Anyway, by the way, the reason I was drawing parallels to what's happening now with Lindsay Halligan and others, it's not necessarily the case that without her testimony, they wouldn't have been able to present a decent case against Gaetz. There was all sorts of other circumstantial evidence, but it was, I guess, chiefly circumstantial without her testimony. And you can build a case on that. That's real evidence. It's not the strongest evidence in the world. But it's real and admissible evidence. But they said, well, without more, the chances are the jury will say, I don't know, beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't think so. But that's why it's so important to compare this to the cases against Letitia James and James Comey and others and Lisa Cook, et cetera. This is the Trump we'll start with the Biden Justice Department says without a stronger case, it's 50-50 at best. We don't go forward with high profile cases like this that involve all sorts of, elected officials and putting witnesses through the ringer. But if they won't go through the ringer, we're just not going to bring this case. A 50-50 case is just not worth our time, even though it's a big target. In the Trump administration, it's like there's a 99% chance you're not going anywhere. You're not even going to get to trial with what you have, but you're going forward anyway. That's the big difference between the two Justice Departments. And yet this Trump Justice Department loves to say that it was the Biden Justice Department that was politicized. I mean, it was politicized in the sense that they said, well, politically, it's going to look terrible if we go forward with this case and lose. Whereas in the Trump administration, they say politically, we don't give a damn, but it's going to look even worse if we go forward with this case because this is even weaker, but we're doing it anyway. That's the more politicized Justice Department, folks. Anyway, Gaetz denies the whole thing. I never had sex with this person. This person threatened me with a lawsuit if I didn't pay her $2.3 million, Mr. Gaetz said. So she never sued me because her story is fiction. According to her lawyers, the girl's path to meeting Mr. Gaetz began during her junior year in high school. In December of 2016, she turned 17. Her parents were divorced. One of them was so poor that the parent was living in and out of a homeless shelter. When the girl and her siblings were staying with that parent, they lived with the parent in the shelter. That is interesting. I mean, I guess I'd be curious about the judge in the divorce case, who ordinarily would, in days gone by, and it would be very sad, would say, I'm not going to necessarily grant visitation or custody at this point because you're homeless and the other one isn't. But I guess these days we try to get past that and say it's really important for the kids to see and spend time with both parents. And there you have it. There's sometimes a downside to that. Although maybe it wasn't down. It was just, circumstances are tough, but this is more important to us. Anyway, to make extra money, the girl worked at McDonald's, but she began looking for other ways to make money and turned to a website quote, or that quote, I guess we'll say, advertised itself as a sugar dating website, and sugar dating gets its own scare quotes and all of this, website that primarily connected older men and younger women seeking, quote, mutually beneficial relationships, according to a report by the House Ethics Committee. Through the website, in April of her junior year in high school, she met Joel Greenberg, that's the real scumbag in all of this. I mean, so's Matt Gaetz, but he's even worse. A local Florida tax collector who was becoming a friend and ally of Mr. Gaetz, according to court documents. Why was he becoming a friend and ally? Because he could hook him up with sex with young girls. The end. Hi everybody, it's me, David Waldman. Yes, the same guy who interrupts you all the time. Interrupting you one more time just to tell you again, another reminder that your contributions are what keep this show on the air, and patreon.com, patreon.com, is still among the easiest ways to make the sustaining subscription donations that keep us afloat. Are you ready for the pep talk about how our Patreon campaign is still going strong and growing? Well, too bad. Yeah, the plain fact is we actually are headed in the wrong direction, and whereas we once had about 175 monthly patrons, we're now actually down below 150. Time to recruit some more. Not exactly the kind of news I wanted to share, but there it is. For those of you in a position to support the show, patreon.com does make it easy to make those secure, recurring monthly contributions to do so. Patreon.com/KagroX gets you straight to our donation page. We've been through a lot together. The worst of the pandemic, we hope. The worst of the insurrection, we hope. So go ahead and treat yourself. You don't need an excuse. Give yourself the gift of a little something you enjoy in life. Support the show. And of course, if you happen to prefer using PayPal or even the Square Cash app, we're up and running on those options too. So thanks again, everyone, for all your support. We couldn't, or at least shouldn't, do it without you. Hope you'll be on board soon too. Thanks for all your support. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Net Roots Radio. Got one more segment left before releasing you for the weekend. By the way, a note here from Justice that I missed earlier about Brian Noem, Christie's husband, is that they were married when she was 20 years old. And, I'll tell you this. Well, one, she was 3 years older than the girl we're talking about at the moment. And two, can I see that maybe things aren't ideal between her and the guy that she married at 20 years old, when I don't know what her expectations in life were, but then she kind of, I guess, sort of independently enters politics, makes a great success for herself, and I could see growing apart from Brian at that point, but, and then also thinking, by the way, I had to fake that my marriage was okay in order to make my way in politics, and now I'm kind of stuck. Although I'm experimenting with the idea of it doesn't matter and YOLO, nothing matters, and I can, live with Corey Lewandowski on a military base and nobody asks any questions. Yeah. So, I don't know. There's a little bit of the Republican hypocrisy built into it, but by the same token, free yourselves, people. It's okay. You don't have to live that kind of hypocrisy. You can just say, my marriage isn't working, and I'm also terrible at my job, and you should oppose me for public office for that reason, not necessarily that my marriage is a failure. But, but we're forced to do that because you keep insisting that your marriage isn't a failure. Just admit it. Just finish it already. Anyway, what can I tell you? No more commentary on that one. Back to finding out that the House Ethics Committee knows all about sugar dating websites, apparently. Anyway, Joel Greenberg ended up being friends with Matt Gaetz because Matt Gaetz, I guess, was, I'm tired of all the work I have to put into finding young girls to exploit for sex and pay via Venmo. Isn't there a simpler way? Why, sure there is. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Joel Greenberg. I'm a tax collector here in whatever the hell county it is, and I know about a sugar dating website. Okay, thank you. Valuable information. Much of what follows has been documented in other inquiries and legal proceedings, including the Ethics Committee investigation. Mr. Greenberg first invited the 17-year-old to a meeting on his boat which is where all meetings should take place. According to court documents, at that meeting, they did not have sex, but Mr. Greenberg paid her $400, the document said. Around that time, Mr. Greenberg gave her ecstasy and told her to try it at home. By the way, I don't know whether I don't know what to tell you about that one. Meeting on a boat, pretty dangerous, generally speaking. Didn't have sex, that so you say, and I don't know. Whatever. Okay, interesting enough, all by itself, quite honestly, giving the local high school kids ecstasy. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Greenberg contacted the girl again, and they ultimately met up at a hotel where they had sex, according to court documents. For that, she was paid another $400, the court document said, which, I guess that too, like on cross-examination. I know you say you didn't have sex the first time. And is that because she was under 18 the first time you met and was over 18 the second time you met? Or is there some other reason? But also, I'm curious about being paid the exact same amount of money. You had sex with her for $400, and then there was another time where you didn't have sex with her, but also for $400. And if I understand correctly, you gave her $400 and ecstasy, and she did what? Visited your boat? For that favor, you gave her $400. I think I have trouble believing that you didn't have sex with her the first time. Okay, so there you go. In the months that followed, Mr. Greenberg, using his personal credit card and one for the local tax collecting office he was in charge of, would have sex with her 7 times for money before she turned 18. Oops, that shoots that theory. Often during those encounters, he would give her ecstasy and would often pay the girl and other women additional money for taking the drug during sex. Okay. On July 15th, well, not okay. But I acknowledge that I have now heard that news. On July 15th, 2017, Mr. Greenberg asked the girl and others to attend a party at the home of Chris Dorworth. I guess you're in trouble, Chris. A former Republican member of the Florida State House of Representatives who at the time worked as a lobbyist for Ballard Partners. You're in trouble too. Which is run by a major Trump fundraiser, surprising no one. Court documents describe the party as involving, quote, alcohol, cocaine, middle-aged men, that's not for intake, that's just they happen to be the guests, and young attractive females. Mr. Gaetz, then 35, attended the party along with a girlfriend, which is also interesting all by itself. At the party, the girl who was 17 later testified both cocaine and ecstasy were offered to her. She took the ecstasy and drank, according to court papers. She testified that she danced naked in front of Mr. Dorworth and swam naked in his pool. Okay. A lot of naked swimming going on in Florida. Yeah, it's warm weather. The ethics committee, just referring to, had Donald Trump been there, he would have walked into the sliding glass door, I'm sure. The ethics committee heard testimony that the girl twice had sex with Mr. Gaetz that evening, notwithstanding that he was attending with a girlfriend, which I have doubts about, how friendly they really were. But anyway, the court document quotes her as testifying that she had sex with him once on a pool table or an air hockey table. I'm not sure which one it was. Although, honestly, the draft should have told you. It could have been an air hockey table. The power was not turned on. Anyway, look, no one was turned on that pool table except Matt Gaetz, I guess. She testifies that Mr. Dorworth saw Mr. Gaetz have sex with her on the game table and then laughed about it with other partygoers. And to be honest, I would have laughed as well, except for, had I known that she was 17, I probably would have said, ha ha, everyone here should be arrested. But, she said she was 18 probably at the time. And also, I guess I would have laughed, ha ha, the whole House of Representatives should be arrested. Gosh, I would have absolutely laughed, had nervous laughter and left the party immediately. This would have been real disturbing. Okay, whatever, man. Dorworth saw Gaetz have sex. I probably would have laughed at Gaetz's, being naked, probably, but not the rest of it. I don't know. Mr. Dorworth has claimed that he was not home at the time, an assertion undercut by phone records that became part of the litigation in that case. Not only that, I would laugh at you for using your landline at that party. The girl later told congressional investigators that she saw Mr. Gaetz use cocaine that night. Uh-oh, that's bad too. For having sex with him twice. The girl was paid $400. That's not fair. She should get $8, according to testimony that she gave to the ethics committee. Okay. That fall, the girl moved to live with a family member in Texas, according to Ms. Wolf. She did not complete her senior year in high school. She continued to work for minimum wage in the food services industry. Ultimately, between the money she made from her interactions with men and in the food services industry, she was able to save up enough money to get braces. And I guess I'm glad you got the braces, but I wish it hadn't happened that way for you. Several years later, Mr. Greenberg came under investigation for trying to undermine a political opponent in an upcoming election by mailing fake letters to the school where the opponent worked as a teacher, claiming that the opponent had sexual relations with a student, which was really just Greenberg wishing he had sexual relations with students, I guess. Every accusation is a confession, after all, for these guys. As part of that investigation, the Justice Department learned about Mr. Greenberg's relationship with the 17-year-old girl, leading authorities to broaden the inquiry into Mr. Gaetz and others. Talk about backfiring. A very dumb guy. But with all the drugs and drinking going on, in addition to the statutory rape, I guess there's just not a brain between a bunch of them. During the investigation, the girl hired a lawyer and was subpoenaed to testify before a grand jury. The girl began mental health treatment. Good. Around that time, according to her lawyer, Mr. Greenberg pleaded guilty to sex trafficking a minor for having sex with the girl in exchange for money. She was sentenced to a decade, sentenced to a decade in prison, but the department declined to charge Mr. Gaetz. In late 2022, lawyers for the girl sent letters to Mr. Gaetz and Mr. Dorworth about whether they would reach a final financial settlement with the girl. The girl never sued, but Mr. Dorworth sued the girl, setting off depositions and an exchange of evidence. Mr. Dorworth would drop the case against the girl, realizing it was stupid, but some documents generated by the case were given to the ethics committee investigators who later used them in their report. Gaetz should have punched Dorworth in the face at that point, but hopefully he did not do it and get himself in even more trouble. The documents that revealed that the girl was homeless were unsealed in October. Fritz Scheller, Mr. Greenberg's lawyer, said that throughout the entire ordeal, including the investigations and the civil litigation, it became apparent that the girl was a, quote, victim that embodied unwavering strength and courage. Greenberg, already in prison, was free to admit the truth on that one, and I'm glad that he did. This is, what can I tell you? Doesn't help at all with Gaetz and his own reputation. Just adds fuel to the fire, quite honestly, about Donald Trump and lifestyle and his own exploits and the fact that he was going to make this guy attorney general, presumably with the idea that now I'll never be prosecuted for my own sex trafficking. He could still get that out of Pam Bondi, but it would have been that much more blatant and in your face using Matt Gaetz for this work. Okay. So, as I mentioned to you, there are any number of other fantastic stories out there, including a couple others from ProPublica and others, which are important for you to know about, including how Fox News in particular helped orchestrate essentially, what shall we say, unethically mixed and matched video about what was going on in Chicago, Portland, elsewhere, for airing on Fox News so that Trump would come away with the impression that there was much more violence and chaos than was actually the case, and therefore use it as a pretext for sending in troops and additional federal law enforcement officers, et cetera, et cetera. But in addition to that one, I was interested in the 404 Media report about the dissemination, the viral dissemination on Facebook of AI-generated videos of ICE raids. That's sort of a new angle on things for me, and I'll see if I can't give you the gist of that story. Whether or not I can tell you the whole thing, yet to be seen. 404 Media, though, at the numbers, 404media.co, no M on the end. AI-generated Sora videos of ICE raids are apparently wildly viral on Facebook. An account is spamming horrific, dehumanizing videos of immigration enforcement because the Facebook algorithm is rewarding them for it, because Facebook is a Nazi tool these days. Jason Kobler is the reporter. I hope I pronounced the name right. Koebler, a November 12th article. Here we go. Watch your step, sir. Keep moving. A police officer with a vest that reads ICE and a patch that reads police says to a Latino-appearing man wearing a Walmart employee vest. He leads him toward a bus that reads Immigration and CERS. Next to him, one of his colleagues begins walking unnaturally sideways, one leg impossibly darting through another as he heads to the back of a line of other Latino Walmart employees who are apparently being detained by ICE. 2 American flag emojis, not emergencies, but emojis, are superimposed on the video, as is the text deportation. That video has 4 million views, 16,600 likes, 1,900 comments, and 2,200 shares on Facebook. It was obviously generated by OpenAI's Sora. Well, certainly, obviously AI. Which AI it was, not as, whatever. But as it turns out, it was OpenAI's Sora. Some of the comments seem to understand this. Why is he walking like that? One says. AI, the guy's foot goes through his leg, says another. Many of the comments clearly do not, though. Oh, you'll find lots of them at Walmart, another top comment reads. Walmart doesn't do paperwork before they hire you, another says. They removing zombies from Walmart before Halloween. I'm not even sure where that comment is supposed to be leading. The latest trend in Facebook's ever downward spiral, the AI... The latest trend in Facebook's ever downward spiral down the AI slop toilet. A little too much in that sentence. Are AI deportation videos. These are posted by an account called USA Journey 897 and have the general vibe of actual propaganda videos posted by ICE and the Department of Homeland Security's social media accounts, which is interesting. Many of the AI videos focus on workplace deportations, but some are similar to horrifying real videos that we've seen from ICE raids in Chicago and Los Angeles. And by the way, once again, I mentioned yesterday, won't have time to read it, but another ProPublica story basically detailing the raid in Chicago, the one where they were rappelling out of Black Hawk helicopters. Nobody's been charged with any criminal wrongdoing from any of those arrests. Again, pretty interesting, and it may just turn out that once again, just like the Aurora situation, it's more about a slumlord, landlord looking to clear people out of his building rather than use the actual foreclosure process for it or eviction process. And, whatever. But back to this story. So, yeah, they're pretty similar to ICE raid videos that they're putting out that are actually real. The account was initially flagged by 404 Media's Chad Loader, or independent researcher who did that work for 404 Media. The videos universally have text superimposed over the 3 areas of a video where OpenAI's Sora video generator usually places watermarks. Haha, wink, wink. This, as well as the style of the videos being generated and tests done by 404 Media to make very similar videos, show that they were generated with Sora, highlighting how tools released by some of the richest companies in the world are being combined to generate and monetize videos that take advantage of human suffering, and how incredibly easy it is to hide a Sora watermark. You get the idea. In order to read the rest of it, I guess I would have to use the Instapaper version of this. It goes on to quote some of the activity in some of these fake videos. Please, that's my baby. A dark-skinned, naturally, woman screams while being restrained by an ICE officer in another video. Ma'am, stop resisting. Keep moving, an officer says back. The camera switches to an image of the baby. You can't take me from her. Please, she's right there. Don't do this. She's just a baby. I love you. Mama loves you, the woman says. The video switches to a scene of the woman in the back of an ICE van. The video has 1,400 likes, 407 comments, which include, don't separate them. Take them all. Take the baby too. And I think the days of use those child anchors are about over with. Great syntax. The USA Journey 897 account publishes multiple of these videos each day. Most of its videos have at least hundreds of thousands of views, according to Facebook's own metrics, and many of them have millions or double-digit millions of views. Earlier this year, the account largely posted a mix of real but stolen videos of police interactions with people, such as Luigi Mangione's perp walk, an absurd AI-generated video such as jacked men carrying whales or riding tigers. The account started experimenting with extremely crude AI-generated deportation videos in February, which included videos of immigrants handcuffed on the tarmac outside of deportation planes, where their arms randomly detached from their bodies, or where people suddenly disappeared or vanished through stairs, for example. Recent videos are more realistic. None of the videos have an AI watermark on them, but the type and style of video changed dramatically, starting with videos posted on October 1st, which is the day after OpenAI's Sora 2 was released. Around that time is when the account started posting videos featuring identifiable stores and restaurants, which have become a common trope in Sora 2 videos. All right. I don't want to spend too much time on the rest of it, but I recommend the article to you. Suffice to say, the authorities at these social media platforms where you can monetize this stuff are set to do about zero to crack down on it. But a growing trend, something you should know about. All right. So that, I think, an interesting parallel to the use of patched together video to fake out Trump by airing it on Fox News to pretend like there's chaos in the cities that he's targeting with federal law enforcement and the dispatching of troops. All right. There are two competing ideas for the rest of our time. And I guess I'm torn between the Laura Loomer stuff and sort of random firings from other agencies where I guess the latest trend in the FHFA and Fannie Mae and others controlled by Bill Pulte, the ethics officers who were attempting to intervene and stop Pulte from digging through the mortgage records of Trump enemies in order to frame them up for so-called mortgage fraud charges. Those ethics officers who tried to advise that that would be unethical and you shouldn't do it have been purged from the agency, and a couple of other people, as it turns out, being purged from that agency and others. For instance, I have I guess we'll go in that direction. And I'll recommend once again that everybody go take a look at the Laura Loomer thing, just to see how crazy she is. But I think suffice for the moment to say, we've given you a taste of how nuts she is. And it gets worse than that. But I just need you to maintain the memory that she's crazy and has direct control over what President Trump does with his executive powers. All right. But over to a raw story, Nicole Charki-Chami, whose name we called, I think, the other day. Did we get to this? Slimebag, that's the quote here. Critics in awe as ethics office purged after Trump's attack dog probed. What's happening? Reactions started rolling in on Tuesday after a Wall Street Journal report revealed that Bill Pulte, the director of President Donald Trump's Federal Housing Finance Agency, was under investigation by ethics watchdogs shortly before the ethics office overseeing the agency was purged. Looking into me, will you? Or looking into me, are you? Well, we'll see about that. Pulte oversees the U.S. mortgage market and also runs Fannie Mae and its brother firm, Freddie Mac. He has taken over both the company boards and made himself the chairman of both organizations, and most recently suggested a 50-year mortgage could make homes more affordable. by the way, no. The Federal Housing Finance Agency watchdog role was removed earlier this month, and the Ethics Office for Fannie Mae had received internal complaints alleging senior officials had improperly directed staff to access mortgage documents for officials who have criticized or legally fought Trump, including New York Attorney General Letitia James. Social media users responded to the report. Shall we sample some of those? You can't just waltz in and start going through the president's enemies' government documentation at will. I've been waiting for this to surface, said former federal prosecutor Joyce Vance on X. Shouldn't be there, but is. Bill Pulte's company, Pulte Homes, best years selling homes were from 1998 to 2008. He is a Slimebag builder, a software developer wrote on X. I don't know how relevant that is. Like, their best years from 98 to 2008. What does that tell me? Nothing, without more. Let's see. Are there others? Trump, next time he's asked about Pulte, loan officer and former talk radio host Tyler Kroll wrote on X, paired with the Mariah Carey I don't know her meme. Anyway, many like that elsewhere, just so you know, and keep an eye on that one. I don't have access to the Wall Street Journal report, which would tell us more about who was purged and what the excuse was, but you should be aware of that as Bill Pulte digs himself deeper and deeper into this situation. Let's see. Others, I think I made mention of this. Did we get to reading any of this story? A New York Times piece. Trump loyalists push grand conspiracy as new subpoenas land. I mentioned to you, I think, that a new round of subpoenas was being served up. The Justice Department moved an inquiry that initially appeared focused on former CIA Director John Brennan to South Florida and is beginning to recruit line prosecutors. Yes, I think we did make mention of that story. I don't know if we read the New York Times version of it, though. But, yeah, I guess we did. Did we just not finish it? Is that what happened? Because it's still in Instapaper, which I usually would have checked this thing out of there by now, but after telling you about Jason A. Redding Quinones. I know you'll recognize that name. And the fact that all of these cases were magically landing in Aileen Cannon's courtroom. There must have been something else to it in terms of it still remaining. I don't know, unless it was just oversight. Okay. I thought I was worried because it was still in Instapaper that I hadn't brought that to your attention, but I guess that we have. All right. And now we have even less time to get around to all of these other things here. And there's no point in going back to Laura Loomer at this point, but I'm just looking to see if there's any other info that we haven't yet covered. Oh, I'll remind you of this one. We did start reading about this one, and I think we did it at the last minute, like maybe last Friday, but just something to remind you that this is actually happening and you should be aware of. I want to remind everybody about the weird arrangement for Alexander Smirnov. If you thought the arrangement for Ghislaine Maxwell was outrageous and inexplicable, and all the rules of federal incarceration should have conspired, in the good sense, to prevent her from being transferred to this much more cushy federal prison camp. Think about this. Alexander Smirnov, the guy who was in federal prison for having admitted to making up the lie that Joe and or Hunter Biden were taking millions of dollars of bribes from Burisma in Ukraine, has disappeared from the federal prison in which he's supposedly incarcerated, and will almost doubtless end up with a pardon on top of it all, but just sort of raising the very weird question of why and how somebody would have been furloughed from prison prior to their having been pardoned. I understand why you wouldn't use furlough as the mechanism to release them, but just generally speaking, there was no real reason for this guy to have been furloughed, and he hasn't yet been pardoned, and somebody was showing up to serve him with yet another subpoena, and it should be a relatively easy thing to find a person who is incarcerated in federal prison. But he turned up there only to be told, yeah, he's not here, and we don't know where he is. Just a very odd happening. I'll say that. And no more time for explanation on how that happened or why, because, of course, we're out of time, and it's time to hand things over to Justice Putnam here at the end of the week. All right. Well, we'll take care of that in just a moment, alongside other housekeeping news, and maybe we can even get ready to roll the outro music a little earlier. New contributor to our Patreon. Do we say this out loud as J-Moy? It's J-M-O-Y is the name given, and I assume that that's an abbreviation of some kind. A nickname, perhaps. Welcome, J-Moy, as a new booster on our Patreon page. And as always, we encourage all of you who value the show to make your way over to Patreon and make recurring monthly contributions that keep us on the air and pay for our hosting services for the podcast and all sorts of other expenses that go along with this, the help that we get from Scott and others who volunteer their time, but nonetheless helps justify this here at Kagro in the Morning World Headquarters, a.k.a. my house, where my better half, who earns considerably more money, gets to wonder aloud from time to time whether or not this is really a worthy use of time. This helps to justify it if you are also helping to support our efforts here financially. That's the way it is. That's the bottom line of things. That's the reality of living in this world. Speaking of reality and living in this world, guess who else is giving of his time for less than ideal compensation? Justice Putnam and the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, which comes up next. What has he got to cover for you? Well, top story. A furious federal judge tore into the Trump DOJ over hours of missing grand jury transcript. Why didn't I make this my top story?
You have been listening to Kagro in the Morning with David Waldman.
Do stay tuned or listen in to the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, because this is an astonishing story. Lindsay Halligan has turned over transcripts of the grand jury at the request of the judge, and guess what? There's hours and hours of that activity missing from the transcript. How could that possibly be the case? Stay tuned for that and much more from around the country and around the world with Justice Putnam next.